And one of the things that I think we need to learn when it comes to navigating the current climate, and you say this in your book, leaning onto the pain side.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I want to talk about that a little bit more in detail. What does that mean? And how can we do that more effectively? Because as we talked about, we're designed to avoid pain,
right,
and lean far to the pleasure side.
Right. Yeah, but I think a lot of our psychological suffering comes because we are running away from pain. And it's really when we're willing to turn and face that pain that we begin to get some relief from it. So that's a real paradox. But also physiologically, there's a whole branch of science called hormesis. It's a Greek word. It means to set in motion. And it shows that when an organism, like a rat or a mouse or other organisms, are exposed to mild to moderate doses of toxic stimuli, it actually makes them more resilient. And this is true for humans as well. So, for example, exercise is immediately toxic to cells.
Yes.
But exercise is good for us. How can it be both toxic and good for us? Well, what happens is our body senses injury and then starts to upregulate feel-good hormones and neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, which then makes us feel good. The point is, again, we are really wired for pain. We're wired to strive. When our lives are too easy, it's actually not physiologically healthy for us. We need that friction, that thing to push against some degree of pain and suffering in order to be, optimally healthy.
And how do we know? I mean, I know it's different from person to person, but we know that stress can be very helpful to some extent, right? But stress, when it passes a certain level, then it definitely drives people to places they can't turn back from. So how do we know which level of pain is actually helpful?
Yeah.
And which level of pain?
Right. Yeah. I would say when I use the word stress, I'm generally, the way it's used in sort of mental health, stress is not good. Stress is a kind of, leads to a kind of a learned helplessness where we feel pressure or oppression over which we have no control, which is generally not optimal. So trying to eliminate stress is almost always good. But intentionally engaging in activities that are difficult, challenging, even in some instances physically painful to a degree, depending upon the person and the activity, these are activities that can give us can give us dopamine and give us pleasure on a physiologic level, but also give us a sense of meaning and purpose, a sense of self-efficacy, a sense of kind of contributing. So these are really tangible ways to kind of improve mental health.
And I think we have almost came to the last end of the conversation. Before we end, would you like to say a few words to those who are watching or those who are reading your book that might be going through some of the most difficult and darkest times and not figuring out what to do next?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say, first of all, don't lose hope. There's always hope. And so important when you're struggling to reach out to somebody and ask for help, because what we can't do alone, we can do with help from others. So really encourage people to just keep the faith, to believe that things will get better, to reach out for help, to receive that help, and to not become hopeless.
Thank you so much.